Good morning. Thankfully, it's finally Friday, May 16th. This is Wake Up with KERA News, and I'm Andrew Garcia. Another hot day is in store for us with some added humidity to go along with it. Highs will be in the low 90s, but unfortunately, that's going to feel a lot more like the upper 90s. And a few strong to severe storms may also develop around and east of the I-35 corridor this afternoon, and there will be a risk for hail with those storms if indeed they do form. Lawmakers in Austin are weighing a stack of bills that could shape everything from library books to film production in Texas. We'll take a look at what's moving and what's stalled as the session winds down. That's after today's news. Fort Worth ISD is proposing the closure of 14 schools over the next 5 years, in addition to 4 closures the school board previously approved. Superintendent Karen Molinar said the plan is needed to reallocate money used for aging buildings to programs that better support students. The district expects to save more than $77 million with the closures. Trustees are expected to vote on the plan next week. The Dallas City Council approved a policy this week that gets rid of most minimums for off-street parking. Advocates of the change say it'll spur economic development and more housing. It's also expected to help the city reach certain climate goals. But opponents say less parking will lead to visitors parking in yards or on sidewalks. With less than 3 weeks left in the legislative session, lawmakers are racing to push their bills across the finish line. KERA arts reporter Marquita Fornoff has been tracking a few measures tied to arts and culture, and she spoke with All Things Considered host Justin Martin to break down what's still on the table.
So, Marquita, of all the issues discussed at the legislature this session, I'm thinking of school vouchers, property taxes, and health care. I haven't heard a lot about the arts, so what types of legislation are they putting forward?
So some bills mention the arts directly, while others don't. But they will certainly have an effect on things like literature, visual art, film, and concerts.
Do you have any examples?
So there are a handful that would create what's called a civil liability for obscenity. Basically, that creates the legal scaffolding to levy fines, sometimes big ones, for offenses that fall short of criminal liability, which has a higher legal standard. One bill would create a process to fine libraries that don't prevent minors from accessing obscene materials. Another measure targets museums with a proposed fine of up to $500,000 per day per obscene item. And another measure targets Drag Story Hour by threatening to remove funding from any participating public library for the next fiscal year.
I'm curious, what do opponents say about these bills?
One big concern is the definition of obscenity. Some feel that the state's definition is vague and could target books featuring LGBTQ characters or some books about anatomy and reproduction. Some librarians have asked if they'd still be at risk for providing a pregnant teenager with a book on reproduction with the bill as written. They also worry about the lack of exceptions for students who need access to books in the general collection. Some rural libraries don't have the space to physically separate those two sections and are concerned they would have to transform their libraries to be adults only.
Does it look like any of these bills will pass?
The bill that would charge museums didn't clear the first hurdle, which is making it out of the House committee. The bill that targets libraries passed in the House but hasn't been voted on in the Senate, and the Drag Story Hour bill passed in the Senate but hasn't been voted on by the House yet.
You mentioned films earlier. Where do they fit into this?
I'm curious how Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson, and Taylor Sheridan are feeling right now because they've been lobbying for more money for the state's film incentive program, and they've attracted bipartisan support. The Senate passed a bill that would more than double the funding from $200 million to $500 million every 2 years until 2035. Since this bill was jointly filed, the House still has time to make a call here. Some lawmakers are excited for more Texas stories to be filmed in the state, but others question whether this is the best use of public funds. So even though the bill has star power, it's not in the clear yet.
So let's move on to music. Are there any updates there?
There was one measure I was paying close attention to about a bill that would loosen restrictions on the resale ticket market. It had a committee hearing but hadn't been voted on by the full House. Venues were concerned that this bill would remove the cap on resale tickets, which would allow them to change hands more frequently and drive up prices for fans.
I'm wondering, do you think there's a chance that I guess any of these measures could become zombie bills that come back to life?
In 2025 politics, I think we can never say never. It'd be an uphill battle, but until this session officially closes, there's always the chance that dead bill gets tacked onto a piece of living legislation as an amendment. So we'll have to see.
That was arts reporter Marquita Fornoff talking with All Things Considered host Justin Martin. The Stars lost their game against the Jets last night, 4-0. That means they'll be coming back to Dallas over the weekend for another chance to close out the Jets, this time on home ice. And the Dallas Wings have their season opener tonight at home against the Minnesota Lynx. Among the starting roster are first overall pick rookie Paige Beckers and long-term favorite Arike Ogunbowale. We'll finally get to see how these two stars start to gel together in their first real game. Tickets for tonight's game are sold out, but you can stream or watch on KFAA Channel 29. Join Garland Cultural Arts and KXT 91.7 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the album that solidified Willie Nelson as a country music legend, Red-Headed Stranger. The tribute concert takes place today and tomorrow in the album's birthplace, Garland, Texas. Find more info and some other fun things to do on our Go See DFW calendar at kera.org/calendar. Thanks so much for listening to Wake Up with KERA News. I'm your host, Andrew Garcia. This show is produced and edited by Shardae White and Bekah Morr. For more news in your inbox, visit kera.org/wakeup. That's where you can subscribe to the Wake Up with KERA News newsletter and get good morning vibes from our colleague Catherine Hobbs. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at KERATX. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday.